Her Majesty the Queen issued an imperial decree, betrothing me to her younger brother, the young Marquis Gu Tingy, fresh from his military triumphs. The entire capital city knew that this young Marquis kept a tender and delicate mistress. It was all because my father chose the wrong side in court 5 years ago, leading to our family fortune's decline. That mistress was strikingly beautiful and had borne the young Marquis a daughter and his only son, with another child on the way, already having won over the Marquis estate's parents. The young Marquis's long-standing unmarried status was merely to find a noble lady with a tolerant heart, so that he could eventually bring her into the household as well. Thus, the royal family bestowed their grace, bestowing me, known for my virtue, upon this young Marquis. Everyone was waiting to see me make a fool of myself, but I calmly put on the wedding gown. Because my goal was never just to be a good mistress of the house. On the day of young Marquis Gu's wedding, Chang'an Street was draped in red silk. Loud drumming and firecrackers exploding filled the air. The sedan chair stopped in front of the estate. Perhaps having had too much wine, he kicked the sedan door angrily from the outside, forcefully pulling me out with the red silk. I gently bumped into him, letting out a soft cry of pain. His body stiffened imperceptibly for a moment, and his subsequent movements were gentler. He led me inside, his palms slightly sweaty due to the layers of clothing, but I feigned shyness, withdrawing my hand. His hand pursued, grasping mine tightly, with a hint of triumph, clearly enjoying my bashfulness and adoration. Pushing open the door to the bridal chamber, I found a crowd already waiting inside. Among them were Gu Tingy's boyhood friends and various young masters. Upon seeing the bride, they began to jeer, urging us to drink from the nuptial cups. Gu Tingy chuckled softly, remaining silent. Cove. Read by the Dragon and Phoenix Veil, gripped my sleeves tightly with both hands. The bridal veil had to be lifted to drink from the nuptial cups, but how could I lift it in front of strange men? They were simply trampling on my dignity. Seeing my hesitation, one of the playboys immediately sneered with disdain. Now that you are a wife, you must abide by your duty. It is your duty to receive guests and treat people, and the young Marquis has said nothing. How dare you put on airs? This sophistry sparked a chorus of jeers from the crowd. Undeterred, I slowly walked to Gu Tingy's side, placing my hand in his palm. Although my father is the son of heaven's grand tutor, now that I am a wife, I must naturally abide by my duty. If my husband asks me to drink, then I will drink. They were publicly jeering, either disrespecting the young Marquis Gu Tingy or deliberately trying to undermine me. But how could Gu Tingy possibly ask his own wife to lift her veil and drink in front of strange men? He cleared his throat and ordered a page to bring the nuptial cups, lifting the large veil to drink from them with me in one gulp, hidden behind it. I gazed at him with tearful eyes, a stark contrast to my calm and rational tone earlier. Gu Tingy was taken aback. Then, with a wave of his hand, he said, "The nuptial cups have been drunk. Everyone, disperse." After everyone had left, Gu Tingy gently lifted a corner of the veil, a trace of remorse flashing in his eyes as he looked at me, still bearing tear stains. "I married you because the phoenix destiny is unchangeable. I also hope you be tolerant and can give Qianqian a place. I will allow her to enter the household in the future. As long as you are well behaved, I will give you the respect due to the Marchioness. No one can surpass you." It was clear that he had feelings for that mistress, even going so far as to chide me on our wedding night. His expression was stern, as if he was prepared for an argument. But I calmly raised my head and met his gaze through the golden silk veil. "Of course, I won't make things difficult for my husband's beloved. But, if you want to bring her into the household, could it be postponed for a while? After all, it was an imperial decree personally issued by the Queen. If my husband immediately takes a concubine, I'm afraid it will cause criticism." I was considering everything for his sake, and Gu Tingy couldn't say much more. It was clear that I was the legal wife, but I was being forced to compromise by a mistress. Gu Tingy's eyes flashed with guilt, and after a moment of hesitation, he nodded slightly. Then, Gu Tingy picked up the jade scepter that had been prepared nearby and lifted the veil with a flick of his hand. When he saw my beautiful face clearly, Gu Tingy's eyes lit up. I could feel that even his breathing had quickened. I gave him a shy smile, then tried to get closer to him, raising my hand to untie his outer robe. But before I could touch his waist belt, he grabbed my hand. In the exchange, I already knew he was aroused. I was his legal wife, and it was only natural for something to happen. I softly called out husband, and in this situation, Gu Tinji finally couldn't suppress the desire in his heart, taking the initiative to carry me to bed. Unfortunately, just as he laid me down, the tightly closed door was suddenly pushed open by an royal attendant. Impudence! Gu Tinji quickly covered me with the quilt, scolding the royal attendant who had burst in. The royal attendant's eyes darted around. Marquis, please forgive me. The concubine fell a few hours ago and suffered a miscarriage. She was afraid you would worry, so she didn't say anything. Now she's uncomfortable and can't sleep, constantly calling for you in her nightmares. This servant had no other choice. Hearing that something had happened to that mistress, Gu Tinji's eyes instantly cleared, and his gaze towards me carried a hint of apology. Chi Hua S being disingenuous on her wedding night, clearly trying to undermine me. Lu Qianqian hadn't even entered the household yet, and this royal attendant was already calling her concubine in front of me, simply ignoring me. I poked my head out from under the covers, my tone sincere. Husband, don't worry. I have an invitation card from the chief of the Imperial Hospital here. Quickly send someone to have him look at Miss Lu. The royal attendant didn't move, but instead looked at Gu Tinji. Gu Tinji released my hand and looked at me with a face full of apology. Although today is our wedding day, Qianqian has given me 2 children, and now she is pregnant. I can't ignore her. The royal attendant was so anxious that she was about to grab him, and Gu Tinji also hesitated. I spoke first. Now that I've married into the family, the child in Miss Lu's womb is also my child. How can I let my husband go alone? We are husband and wife, naturally we should go together. That imperial physician is familiar with my father. If he sees me, he will try even harder to treat Miss Lu. These words were appropriate and demonstrated the demeanor of a legal wife, and Gu Tinji couldn't say anything to refuse. But the royal attendant was dumbfounded, standing there stunned. I quickly urged the royal attendant, hurry up and invite the imperial physician. Don't delay the safety of the child in Miss Lu's womb. After speaking, I retreated to advance, saying that I would accompany him to see that Miss Lu immediately. Gu Tinji saw that something was wrong and said coldly, first, go invite the imperial physician. If there are any problems, report back to me. The royal attendant looked unwilling and continued, the concubine just fell. The doctor said there was nothing serious, but she kept calling for you. Please go see her. The royal attendant spoke with her head lowered, completely unaware that Gu Tinji's face had already turned dark. On the wedding night, claiming that the mistress had fallen and was threatening a miscarriage. I took out the imperial physician's invitation card, but she refused to invite him. Anyone could see that this was Lu Qianqian's attempt to compete for favor. If he abandoned his wife for a mistress on their wedding night, Gu Tinji might dare to do it, but outsiders would dare to accuse him of doting on his concubine and neglecting his wife. I remained silent, standing quietly by his side. He said in an annoyed tone, do I need to repeat what I just said? The royal attendant reluctantly left, and I gently comforted him, if my husband leaves like this tonight, I'm afraid I won't have a place in the estate in the future. If my husband is really worried, how about I accompany you? That royal attendant had already revealed her intentions. It was clear that Lu Qianqian was competing for attention. Gu Tinji naturally said coldly that he wouldn't go. I then showed my vulnerability at the appropriate time. I know that you and Miss Lu have a deep love for each other, but I still want to boldly ask my husband to stay here tonight. Otherwise, spending my wedding night alone like this, I'm afraid I will be laughed at by everyone. Marquis, you don't have to force yourself. I can sleep on the couch next to the bed. I will naturally explain it to Miss Qianqian in person another day. I was supposed to be the legitimate wife, but I had to explain to a mistress whether or not something happened on our wedding night. Gu Tinji was embarrassed to accept this. The candlelight flickered, and in the moment our eyes met, I turned my face away, blushing. Gu Tinji gave a roguish smile and directly hooked my slender waist, leading me to a night of passion. Outside, I was a dignified and courteous marchioness. In the boudoir, I was a shy and clingy wife. Gu Tinji was captivated by my duality, and he didn't stop all night. Thinking of his words asking me to be well behaved, I couldn't help but find it a little laughable. Was this his love for Lu Qianqian? The next day, Gu Tinji saw that I was awake. Looking at the bloodstains on the white sheet, a trace of pity flashed in his eyes, and he told me to continue resting in the room. But I endured my discomfort and dressed neatly. Today, I should offer tea to my father and mother. Let me go with my husband. As I said this, I took a step, but gently leaned towards him. Gu Tinji instinctively raised his hand to support me. As soon as I left the room, I straightened my back and followed Gu Tinji with a dignified and courteous air. Seeing my transformation, Gu Tinji couldn't help but want to tease me, secretly raising his hand to pinch my palm. Madam is walking so fast, don't let people see anything amiss. I glared at him, feigning annoyance, but he smiled with his eyes. Do you need your husband to wait for you? He stood there leisurely, waiting for my answer. I hummed softly and nodded slightly, my earlobes completely red. Gu Tinji finally curled his lips with satisfaction and deliberately slowed down his pace. As we passed a corner, a 5 or 6-year-old boy was tiptoeing to hook a kite on a pear tree, and a 7 or 8-year-old girl was helping him. Seeing this, Gu Tinji immediately stepped forward and personally held him to take the kite off the tree. The child glanced at me, his expression provocative. Father, why didn't you go see Mother yesterday? Royal attendant said that Mother cried all night. Mother is alone outside, and no one is with her. Don't you pity her now? Father, take me to see Mother, okay? You married a new wife, and I'm afraid Mother will cry her eyes out. Guyu/Gu/Yu and Guyu/Gu/Yu had been brought back to the estate 4 years ago, but Lu Qianqian was confined by her status and could only live in a house outside. Although she wasn't in the estate, she had many eyes and ears under her command. Gu Tinji frowned slightly, not refusing. I gave a look, and my dowry. Maid Bijou immediately spoke. How about having breakfast first? Last night, that royal attendant already said that Miss Lu was fine. Young master is young, so he mustn't go hungry. Remembering what happened last night, Gu Tinji's eyes changed slightly. First, go pay respects to grandfather and grandmother, and have breakfast with them first. I smiled politely. If young master and miss suffer anything on the first day I enter the household, I'm afraid outsiders will say that I'm not a good mother. Marquis, you should take the children to have breakfast first. I will personally arrange a carriage to send you later. Guyu/Yu, hearing the word mother, immediately shouted at me, I only have one mother. ####. Who do you think you are? Guyu/Yu feigned a reprimand, brother, be quiet. Even if father has a new wife, you mustn't be rude. Father is a marquis, and we should be grateful to receive even a little favor. How dare you be disrespectful to the new marchioness? The boy's words were blunt and unpleasant, and you could get a general idea from just one sentence. The girl's intentions were a bit more calculated, and she even knew how to gain sympathy by retreating to advance. Unfortunately, her brother didn't catch the hint and actually slammed the kite on the ground, stomping on it. Did I say anything wrong? Last night, Mother fell, and father didn't even go to see her. He doesn't love Mother at all, and he doesn't love us either. Sister, why are you talking about me? As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions turned a bit ugly. But Guyu/Yu was just a child, and his ability to read faces wasn't that strong. He just wanted to throw a tantrum like he always did to get his way. Father, please go see Mother. She must miss you. Don't you love me and Mother anymore? Gu Tinji's tone was slightly cold. Eat first. Guyu/Yu's intentions were too obvious, but Gu Tinji wouldn't think that the child was scheming, but rather that so. Mion had taught him badly. Guyu/Yu also looked at Gu Tinji pitifully, her fair face covered with tears. It was clear that Gu Tinji intended to let it go. But this Guyu/Yu suddenly became stubborn. You used to indulge me. Didn't you say that you would bring Mother back to the estate in an 8-sedan chair? Why did you marry someone else? Mother was originally a good daughter from a refined family. She was willing to be a mistress because she admired you. Don't you really have Mother in your heart? Or did someone say something in front of you? That mistress was just the daughter of a criminal official, and it was an honor for her to be Gu Tinji's mistress, but the child made it sound like she had been wronged. Shut up! Gu Tinji's face turned black with anger, but he still looked at me in a panic. I feigned hurt, but still forced a smile. It's okay, children say whatever comes to mind. He struggled wildly like a maddened carp, kicking his legs randomly. Gu Tinji was so angry that he slapped him on the bottom twice and directly ordered someone to take him away. Guya/Yu wanted to plead for him, but Gu Tinji waved her away. He turned his head to explain Guya/Yu's offense to me, but at the moment he opened his mouth, he saw the woman standing under the olive tree not far away. She was wearing a pink dress, and her slightly furrowed brows seemed to express infinite helplessness. Her frail, willow-like appearance made people want to protect her. Gu Tinji's angry emotions were instantly washed away, and he took the initiative to explain, just now, Ayu said things he shouldn't have. I was just doing it for his own good. Lu Qianqian nodded understandingly, her eyes always on me. Old madam felt sorry for me after I fell yesterday, saying that the estate was busy with the wedding and didn't have time to take care of me, so she brought me into the estate. I'll go back after I recover. She seemed to be showing weakness everywhere, but she was accusing Gu Tinji of being a father who disregarded her unborn child for the sake of a woman. Gu Tinji did as she wished, saying with some guilt, I'll go spend some time with you later. I looked at her acting with cold eyes, not saying anything. She dared to accuse Gu Tinji in front of the servants, directly mentioning the incident where she fell and almost miscarried. If I dared to say anything, I was afraid that I would immediately be accused of being mean. When paying respects to the old marquis and old madam, I pretended that nothing had happened, not mentioning the children's affront to me, nor mentioning Lu Qianqian's attempt to ask Gu Tinji to leave last night. I only asked respectfully and offered tea. My demeanor was dignified and generous, leaving no room for criticism. The old marquis's eyes flashed with relief, presumably very satisfied with me. The old madam also took off the family heirloom jade bracelet that she had worn for decades and handed it to me. Lu Qianqian, standing on the side, had jealousy flashing in her eyes, but there was nothing she could do. Who told her that she had a father who had committed a crime and that she had insisted on being someone's mistress? Not to mention this jade bracelet, she didn't even have the opportunity to sit at the table. Apart from the imperial family, the concubines of other men were basically playthings. Lu Qianqian was able to stand here well because Gu Tinji still had feelings for her. If this affection was completely worn away, her road would come to an end. We sat down to eat, and Lu Qianqian could only stand and serve the dishes like a maid. During the meal, I deliberately showed that I liked to eat sweets, and that sweet and sour pork was in a position that Gu Tinji couldn't reach for in front of Lu Qianqian. He, being a martial man, didn't think so much and directly said, Qianqian, serve some dishes for the marchioness. Lu Qianqian looked hurt, looking at Gu Tinji in disbelief. He had promised in public that he would never let Lu Qianqian bow her head, let alone make her a slave. But now, he was asking Lu Qianqian to do the work of a maid and serve dishes for me. Touching Lu Qianqian's hurt eyes, Gu Tinji realized that he had hurt her and wanted to say something, but I spoke first. There's no need. There are so many people serving in the marquis estate, why bother Miss Qianqian? She hadn't even been brought into the estate yet, she wasn't even a concubine, and calling her miss was already an honor. Lu Qianqian looked at me, putting on the airs of a mistress of the house, and hatred grew in her heart, but she could only force a smile. Serving the marchioness is what a concubine should do. The word concubine made the old marquis, who had been silent, frown and say in a cold voice, since you haven't entered the household, there's no need to call yourself a concubine. If outsiders hear it, they'll have to report it to Tinji. Keeping a mistress wasn't a decent thing, and the old marquis had ignored it before only because his son liked her and she had given birth to his eldest son. But today was different. After all, my father was the son of heaven's grand tutor, the grand tutor. Even going back a few generations, this great Xia dynasty belonged to our family. On the wedding day, the queen personally bestowed a phoenix hairpin, ordering the young marquis to pin it on the new bride. This great honor seemed to be giving face to the marquis estate, but it was actually to appease me. Therefore, the old marquis would never be foolish enough to let Lu Qianqian surpass me. Lu Qianqian also realized this and quickly knelt on the ground with fear and trepidation to apologize. Gu Tinji subconsciously wanted to help her, but the old marquis glared at him. At this moment, Guyu/Yu, who had just been taken away, suddenly rushed in. He crashed straight into me, and the soup and wine spilled all over me. Several blisters were scalded on the back of my hand. Guya/ya held a pot of roses with thorns in her hand, and with a thud, she threw it on my feet. I fell to the ground in pain, pressing down with both hands. The blisters were pierced by the thorns of the roses, and bright red blood flowed out. Before I could speak, Guya/ya burst into tears with a cry, "I didn't do it on purpose. This is father and mother's token of love. I just wanted to bring it to father to take a look." Guya/ya stood in front of Lu Qianqian, glaring at me with a face full of hatred. "This position is my mother's. Why is she sitting here?" Punishment. I slowly got up, looking at the wound on my hand with interest. This position was only for the mistress of the house to sit. Lu Qianqian, a mistress, not even a concubine. What right did she have to sit there? And he bumped into me in front of everyone, which was disrespecting his legal mother. Guya/ya, however, was oblivious, raising his chin and waiting for someone to coax him. Lu Qianqian covered his mouth in horror, but Guya/ya was full of the humble appearance of his mother being forced to kneel on the ground, and shouted, "What are you afraid of, mother? I'm the eldest son in the family, and you have a younger brother in your belly. What's there to be afraid of this woman? When I inherit the title in the future, I will definitely drive out this woman who snatched someone else's husband." Everyone was dumbfounded, not expecting a 5 or 6-year-old child to say such a thing. But he was still arrogant. "The dowry you brought in will also be my sister's in the future. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. My mother is the one who can sit next to father." Guya/ya wiped her tears like Lu Qianqian, crying falsely, "Father, are you just going to watch the new Marchioness abuse mother?" I hadn't done anything yet, but according to them, it was as if I had done something to them. I simply wiped away the dirt and said with majesty, "If you had come a moment earlier, you would know that I didn't force your mother to do anything. On the contrary, I treated her with courtesy. But you, although you are young, you are very brave. I have already tolerated you several times. But just now, you disregarded your elders and overturned the food. If you offend a noble in the future, what will become of you?" The old Marquis's face was dark, and Gu Tinji gritted his teeth and pulled Guya/ya's hand. "Who taught you to say those words just now?" Guya/ya was so frightened by his ugly face that he actually cried. The people around Guya/ya were all personally selected by Lu Qianqian. It was obvious who taught him. But when Gu Tinji touched Lu Qianqian's terrified expression, he couldn't bear to be cruel. He said to Guya/ya, "If I don't control you, I'm afraid you'll become even more unruly. From today onwards, you're confined for half a month and punished to copy the 6 rituals 100 times. Come to see me when you've finished copying them." Guya/ya wanted to plead for her brother, but Gu Tinji turned his head and said coldly, "You provoked your brother to offend his legal mother. You're punished to embroider a 10-meter plaque of "Family harmony brings prosperity" and hang it in your room every day to reflect on yourself." "Father, I didn't." "You misunderstood me." The old Marquis snorted coldly, "You little 8 or 9-year-old girl dares to play tricks in front of us. Do you really think everyone is a fool?" I thought Guya/ya would continue to argue, but she just silently shed tears, looking cautious and timid. This was already the lightest punishment, but Guya/ya's childlike nature made him hate reading and writing the most. He started acting like a spoiled child. "Why should I copy books? I didn't do anything wrong at all. She was the one who stole mother's position as the legal wife. If it wasn't for her, mother wouldn't be living alone outside." Hearing this, my body stiffened, and tears fell straight down. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I was betrothed by the queen herself, and my husband married me into the household with 3 letters and 6 rituals and 8 sedan chair. How did I become a vixen who snatched someone else's husband in Yujier's mouth? Could it be that someone deliberately taught him badly? Guya/ya looked at me crying with a look of victory and stuck out his tongue provocatively. "What are you pretending to cry for? Weren't you showing off and stopping father from seeing mother last night? Why aren't you continuing to show off now?" Pa! A slap landed on Guya/ya's face. The old Marquis's raised hand was still trembling, and he looked at Gu Tinji with a dark face. "I told you a long time ago to let your mother take care of the children, but you insisted on letting a mistress raise them. Now look what's happened." He's been raised to be so lawless. The words mistress deeply hurt Lu Qianqian. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she wanted to defend herself, but the old Marquis didn't give her a chance. Instead, he stared at me and asked, "What happened last night that Guyu/you was talking about?" Guyu/you immediately cried and said, "Mother fell and was threatening a miscarriage last night. She had no choice but to ask someone to call father. Grandfather, please don't blame mother." She brought the topic to Lu Qianqian's unborn child, and Lu Qianqian also covered her mouth at the right time, suddenly gagging. Ugh, Gu Tinji, who had been silent all along, quickly stepped forward to help her. I sneered in my heart, but on my face, I looked anxious. Last night, an royal attendant said that Miss Lu fell and was threatening a miscarriage, and asked my husband to go see her. He couldn't get away, so he arranged for an imperial physician to go. But the royal attendant who delivered the message said that Miss Lu was fine, so my husband didn't go. Maybe AU and AM mistakenly thought that I was stopping my husband from going. It muse. TB a misunderstanding. What? ####. Reversal. Last night was the wedding night, but they had someone ask the groom to leave. What was their intention? It was self-evident. Lu Qianqian wanted to say something, but the estate's doctor had already arrived and stepped forward to take her pulse. This lady's fetus is stable and has not been threatened with a miscarriage. The old Marquis and old Madam's gaze towards Lu Qianqian suddenly turned cold. The most taboo thing in the inner courtyard was the competition for favor between wives and concubines. Lu Qianqian also realized this, grabbed Guyu/you and Guyu/ya, and quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed. This concubine's pregnancy was unstable this time. I was really frightened last night. The royal attendant who served me felt sorry for me and rashly asked the Marquis to come. AU and AM must have misunderstood something. This concubine is not in the estate and cannot supervise them, but it is also this concubine's fault. It is this concubine who did not teach AU well. Even if I fell while pregnant, I should not have affected the wedding. Please, Marquis and Marchioness, forgive them for being young. She kowtowed several times, breaking her head, and her beautiful face was stained red with blood. Her move of 4 ounces deflecting 1,000 pounds directly softened Gu Tinji. Before the old Marquis could say anything, he actually helped her up. You're not in the estate, and the children are young and don't understand. It's not your fault that they're being led astray. Why are you blaming yourself so much? I'll replace all the people who serve them and hire a teacher to teach them well. Seeing that he was preparing to let it go lightly, I immediately smiled and said, anyway, the young master and miss are just worried about their birth mother. In that case, why not hire her as a noble concubine in 2 months and welcome her into the household with great fanfare? Lu Qianqian looked happy, thinking that I was weak and could be bullied, wanting to please Gu Tinji. The old Marquis, however, still remembered Guyu's offense against the mistress of the house and simply snorted coldly, showing no kindness. It's already an honor for the daughter of a criminal official to be a concubine. How dare she dream of becoming a favored concubine? Next spring, just have her brought in a small sedan chair. Lu Qianqian wanted to retort but couldn't open her mouth, her face ashen as she looked to Gu Tinji for help. But Gu Tinji wasn't a fool. The haze of tears that had clouded his mind had cleared. He turned his head away, silent. As I left, I saw Lu Qianqian staring at me, her eyes full of resentment. She can't handle this? This is just the beginning. While Guyu was confined, Lu Qianqian was also restricted to a house outside the Marquis estate. Gu Tinji felt guilty towards me and reduced the frequency of his visits to Lu Qianqian. I knew very well that a man's remorse wouldn't last long. So, near the end of the year, I proactively suggested bringing Lu Qianqian into the estate. Gu Tinji had been worried that I would prevent Lu Qianqian from entering the estate, fearing that I was only pretending to be generous. Now, he was completely at ease with me, even bringing Lu Qianqian to serve me tea. Lu Qianqian was even better at concealing her emotions than before, kneeling respectfully to offer the tea. Guyu and Guya, standing to the side, didn't say a word, but their eyes were filled with resentment and humiliation as they watched Lu Qianqian kneel. They had completely turned against me. Now that I had complete control over the internal affairs of the Marquis estate and had a bargaining chip in my belly, Lu Qianqian would never be able to cause any trouble. In her attempts to gain favor, she often claimed that her pregnancy was causing her discomfort. Eventually, her words became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and she inexplicably suffered a miscarriage. The old Marquise despised her manipulative ways and ordered Gu Tinji not to become too infatuated with women, urging him to focus on the court. Gu Tinji listened. Although he sent many tonics, he reduced his visits to her courtyard. However, I underestimated her luck and how much Gu Tinji valued her. As New Year's Eve approached, a memorial was presented during Gu Tinji's court appearance. It pleaded for justice for Lu Qianqian's father, Lu Zhao, revealing that he was an undercover agent planted by the late emperor among the rebels. However, the late emperor passed away suddenly, and his identity remained unknown. He was branded as a rebel and hunted down. This news silenced the entire court. The Lu family had been executed, with only their daughter, Lu Qianqian, surviving. Gu Tinji, under pressure, begged the Son of Heaven to restore the Lu family's reputation and requested that Lu Qianqian be granted the title of county princess. As soon as the imperial decree was issued, the entire Marquis estate changed its tune. The daughter of a former rebel had become the descendant of a loyal martyr, bestowed with the title of county princess, exempt from kneeling to anyone except the imperial family. The Queen held a New Year's Eve banquet before the new year. It was originally only for legal wives and daughters, but the Marquis estate received 3 invitation cards. One for me and one for the old madam. The extra one was self-explanatory. Although the Queen was Gu Tinji's sister, I didn't believe she was doing it to give her brother's beloved some face. I suspected there was more to it. Lu Qianqian, however, didn't realize this and thought the imperial family valued her. When leaving the estate, she actually rushed ahead of me into the first carriage. Madam doesn't usually like dark, somber colors like lake green. Why don't you take the pink silk-curtained carriage behind us? The old madam's carriage had already moved forward and couldn't speak on my behalf. Lu Qianqian, now riding high, was in a triumphant mood, thinking she could suppress me. I wasn't annoyed. I stepped back, coldly watching her court disaster. The carriage stopped at the palace gates. The Marquis estate's servant announced the arrival of the Marquis of Dingbei's family. The Queen's royal attendant hesitated for a moment before walking towards Lu Qianqian's carriage. Young madam, Her Majesty requests your presence. Lu Qianqian lifted the curtain and stepped out, a smug look on her face. Royal attendant, young madam is behind me. The royal attendant looked surprised and noticed me stepping gracefully out of the smaller, pink carriage behind. I walked up to the royal attendant, neither arrogant nor servile. Since Her Majesty has summoned me, I'll trouble the royal attendant to lead the way. Lu Qianqian, uninvited, followed behind. Someone struck up a conversation with her, and she boasted about her family's merits, saying they had been wrongly accused. I glanced at the royal attendant and noticed her face turning extremely unpleasant. The Lu family's wrongful accusation case was personally judged by the current Son of Heaven. Lu Qianqian repeatedly claimed they were wronged, calling them loyal subjects. Wasn't she slapping the imperial family in the face? After thinking about it, I guess the Queen wanted to reprimand Lu Qianqian. Gu Tinji had disregarded the imperial family's honor and directly brought up the Lu family's wrongful accusation, forcing the Son of Heaven to reward Lu Qianqian. Gu Tinji, as the Queen's brother, was likely facing criticism from the emperor as well. I heard that Consort Lu had taken over the Queen's authority to manage the 6 palaces last month. How long could she endure this? ####. The setup. Arriving at the Phoenix Palace, the Queen raised her hand to speak to me, but Lu Qianqian interrupted. Your Majesty, you misses you so much. Unfortunately, he can't enter the palace to greet you today, so he asked me to send his regards. The Queen smiled perfunctorily, not responding. The women in the hall were all legal wives and daughters. Although Lu Qianqian held the title of county princess, few people spoke to her. She had been in the limelight at the estate recently and couldn't stand being treated coldly. Someone praised my good family background and talent. Lu Qianqian's eyes darted around, and she suddenly said with a pained expression to the mother and daughter talking nearby, when my parents were alive, they would teach me poetry and tea. Unfortunately, the Lu family was wrongly accused, and I can no longer brew tea and discuss poetry with my parents. Seeing you all being so close, I can't help but think of my own mother." As she spoke, she began to sob softly. The queen, standing just a few steps away, had a dark expression, but Lu Qianqian didn't notice. Fortunately, the imperial family is wise and has restored my father's reputation. However, although I have the title of county princess, I still crave family care. I smiled inwardly but didn't show it on my face. "What are you saying? The Marquis cherishes you very much, and your father and mother treat you like their own daughter. We are all family." With these words, people who don't know the truth might think the Marquis estate is mistreating you. If Lu Qianqian were smart, she would apologize immediately. But she had been spoiled by Gu Tinji and actually snorted coldly, retorting, "If my father hadn't been wrongly accused, I would be the one married to the Marquis, not you putting on a show." The queen slapped Lu Qianqian across the face. "How dare a concubine shout in front of the legal wife? Didn't your father teach you better?" Lu Qianqian looked at the queen in disbelief. "Your Majesty, I am Qianqian." They were close friends in their youth, so Lu Qianqian naively believed the queen would protect her. But the queen only sneered. "Who doesn't know about your reputation, Lu Qianqian? You dared to mingle with men before marrying and willingly be kept in an outer residence. Your father was indeed loyal, but you are nothing like him. It's one thing to indulge in pleasure, but now you dare to be insubordinate. It's absurd. Guards, slap her 10 times and throw her out of the palace." The old women who administered slaps in the palace had calloused hands. One slap could disfigure a person, let alone 10. Lu Qianqian knelt down and begged for mercy. "Please spare me, Your Majesty. I was just being foolish. Please spare me for my father's merits." Saying that only made the queen's expression colder. What I hate the most are second-generation heirs who flaunt their family's influence. 10 solid slaps landed on Lu Qianqian's face, turning her beautiful face into a swollen pig. I watched coldly as all of this happened, noticing that the queen didn't touch any meat dishes. Looking closer, I noticed dark circles under her eyes and a slightly protruding abdomen. She was clearly pregnant, but there was a smell of mugwort on her. Fumigating with mugwort when the pregnancy was not stable indicated that the queen's pregnancy was at risk. Even if she gave birth, the baby would likely be stillborn. The emperor was over 60 years old and had been growing weaker in recent years. However, he had few princes. The queen hadn't conceived for 3 years after entering the palace. The crown prince hadn't been chosen yet, and the queen was likely desperate. In an unnoticed corner, I smiled gently at the queen and then made a vomiting gesture. Her eyes flashed with joy, and she whispered a few words to the royal attendant beside her. Later during the banquet, a palace maid with the scent of medicine approached me. While pouring wine, she suddenly dropped the flagon, spilling wine on me. She was taking my pulse. I pretended not to know, hurriedly getting up to change clothes. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the palace maid and the royal attendant exchange a nod. Lu Qianqian thought my world only extended to the Marquis estate, but she didn't realize I wanted much more than that. Continuing forward, I suddenly noticed someone following me, radiating heat. My eyes narrowed, and I immediately pulled out a hairpin from my hair and hid it in my sleeve. As I rounded a corner, I was struck heavily on the back of the head. In the moment of unconsciousness, I stabbed the hairpin into my palm, the pain keeping me rational. I closed my eyes and pretended to be unconscious, letting the maids lock me in a room. The room was filled with the aphrodisiac scent of ylang ylang and the smell of alcohol. Behind the screen, there were several men who had already been stripped naked and thrown on the bed. The door was locked from the outside. I held my breath and walked to the window. One of the men was groaning and about to wake up. Once they were all awake, they would be caught in an affair. I couldn't allow that to happen. I directly punctured the window paper and pulled out the window bolt. Looking at the 3 or 4 meter drop outside, I steeled my heart and jumped out. My knees were scraped, and even my ankle was slightly sprained. Footsteps approached, and I quickly hid behind a rockery. A familiar figure approached. I squinted and recognized Gu Tinji. He frowned and muttered, "My sister clearly said the madam was drunk and asked me to pick her up. Where is she?" "Never mind, Qianqian was just slapped 10 times. I should go keep her company. I was speechless, wondering how this fool had survived until now. But I didn't miss the key words Gu Tinji said about going to accompany Lu Qianqian. The queen clearly said she would throw Lu Qianqian out of the palace, but Gu Tinji said he was going to accompany her. Since this was a royal banquet, he couldn't leave at will, which meant Lu Qianqian was still in the palace. Thinking about what had just happened, I curled my lips and directly reached out to pull Gu Tinji behind the rockery. He instinctively raised his hand and twisted my arm. And I gasped. "Husband, it's me." Seeing my disheveled appearance, Gu Tinji was instantly stunned. "What happened to you?" I leaned against him, soft and weak. Someone wanted to frame me. I had no choice but to jump to protect my innocence. Gu Tinji looked up at the open window upstairs and was furious. Who dares to plot against someone from my Marquis of Dingbei's family? Seeing that he was about to find out the culprit, I hugged him, preventing him from leaving. "I'm so hot. Husband, stay with me here for a while, okay? I don't want anyone to see me like this." Feeling my soft body in his arms, Gu Tinji's Adam's apple bobbed a few times. Just as he was about to lower his head to kiss me, I turned my head. "Don't, I'm pregnant." "What?" Surprise burst from his eyes. Before I could respond, Lu Qianqian's voice suddenly reached our ears. She scolded in a low voice, "Didn't you say you brought that bitch here? Where is she?" #### deserved retribution. The palace maid trembled. I did knock her unconscious and put her in the room. I don't know how she disappeared. Lu Qianqian gritted her teeth. "I believed you and even let the Marquis come to catch her in the act. Now that bitch is gone, and the Marquis is gone. What kind of job is this?" Lu Qianqian angrily pinched the maid's soft flesh. Her face was swollen, making her look terrifying. Gu Tinji was shocked, unable to believe that the gentle woman in front of him could have such a side. I looked at him pitifully, silently shedding tears. I know the Marquis likes concubine Lu, but I still can't help but ask, are you going to let her go this time too? Gu Tinji's expression changed. He clenched his fist and prepared to walk out. "How dare you!" The queen's voice suddenly appeared, startling Lu Qianqian. Her face turned pale as she tried to defend herself. But the queen was decisive and wouldn't give her a chance to quibble. Daring to plot adultery in the palace to harm the legal wife is a capital offense. Gu Tinji panicked and immediately rushed out. "Your Majesty, she was just being foolish. Please spare her life." The queen felt Gu Tinji was hopeless and glared at him, continuing, "Considering your father's merits, I will spare you death. Guards, shave this bitch's head and send her to a nunnery. Tinji is also not without fault. I sentence you to house arrest for half a year. You can only plead guilty when you have figured things out." A look of certainty flashed in the queen's eyes, and I instantly understood. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Lu Qianqian used the queen to lure me to this remote place, but she didn't expect the queen to use this opportunity to dispose of her. The imperial family's dignity was inviolable. Lu Qianqian repeatedly claimed the imperial family owed her. Even if the queen wanted to please the emperor, she wouldn't let her go. She was so foolish, how could she fight me? Back at the estate, Guyu didn't see Lu Qianqian and immediately asked, "Where is concubine?" Gu Tinji was silent, and Guyu was instantly alert. "Father, where is my mother?" Gu Tinji's page looked at Guyu with difficulty. "Young master, don't ask." Concubine Lu angered the queen and was sent to a royal temple. What? Guya, who had arrived late, stared at Gu Tinji in disbelief. How is that possible? Mother was just granted the title of county princess. How could my aunt send her to a temple? I don't believe it. I want to see mother. Guyu also pushed the page away and rushed out, creating chaos. Gu Tinji slapped him. What are you making a fuss about? Is it not messy enough? The people sent by the queen to watch over Gu Tinji's house arrest had also arrived. There were no battles now, so half a year of confinement wasn't a big deal. They could release him if something came up. They only thought Gu Tinji had angered the queen, but I knew there was more to it than that. What the queen really wanted was the child in my belly. Presumably, the medical woman had already told her that I was 3 months pregnant. Gu Tinji's release would coincide with my delivery date. During the days of planning, I wasn't idle. I had people send vegetable oil rice to Lu Qianqian at the temple every day, nothing else. Didn't Gu Tinji like her delicate appearance? I was curious to see if he could continue to love her when she weighed over 200 pounds. On the day of delivery, I passed out after giving birth. Fortunately, the nanny I had arranged woke me up. I took a closer look and realized the child had been switched. The baby in my arms was a girl with bluish-purple lips, indicating a congenital illness. I pretended to be unconscious, and the nanny hurried to inform Gu Tinji, who was waiting outside. Everyone knew the Marchioness had given birth to a weak girl. Everyone also knew the queen had given birth to a son, the emperor's only legitimate son. This healthy young prince was born with a jade amulet in his mouth, fair and plump. After a long drought, the borderlands had a good rain. The national teacher said the young prince was a sign of good fortune. The emperor was overjoyed and directly named the young prince crown prince. Gu Tinji, seeing that I had given birth to a weak girl, tested the waters several times, wanting to bring Lu Qianqian back. Gu Yu also provoked me several times, saying his mother would give birth to a healthy brother for him in the future. I smiled and agreed. Her Majesty only wanted concubine Lu to reflect. She didn't say she would never let her return. Husband, inform her and bring her back. Gu Tinji was dumbfounded when he received Lu Qianqian. He didn't recognize her at all. But Lu Qianqian believed their love was unbreakable and rushed to hug him, crying, "Husband, you finally came to save me." Before, when she made this gesture, it was charming and alluring. Now, it was purely disgusting. Gu Tinji was frightened and retreated, fleeing. After that, he never me. Tianed bringing Lu Qianqian back. Gu Yu also blamed him, and after several failed tantrums, he argued with Gu Tinji. Gu Tinji was so angry that he never visited him again. The child had long been spoiled and was no longer a threat. Guya, on the other hand, had learned to be clever and wanted to be adopted under my name so she could marry into a high-ranking family as the legal daughter. But the Marquis estate was completely under my control. She had the intention, but not the ability. She could only eagerly become a concubine for someone else when she reached marrying age. I proactively said I had suffered damage during childbirth and brought in several beautiful concubines for him. Everyone praised me for being understanding and magnanimous. The entire Marquis estate had been completely taken into my control. The emperor passed away, and the crown prince ascended the throne. The queen ruled from behind the curtain, and because she was concerned about her daughter, who was still being raised by me, she was especially kind to me. No one dared to underestimate my daughter, because the Empress Dowager loved her the most and even promised that the position of Empress would always be hers. No one knew why the Empress Dowager loved a sickly girl so much, but I knew all the inside information, but I wouldn't say. Because after that, the Xia dynasty would forever carry my bloodline. I looked in the direction of the imperial palace and shed tears. 70 years ago, my great-grandfather and the late emperor fought together to conquer the world. But when he retired, he was plotted against by the late emperor and lost his life. Now, after many twists and turns, my son had become the emperor. I had finally reclaimed the world that belonged to the Qing family.